This is the current freebie on clevermodels.net. It's called the O-Scale Small Wooden Ice House. I downloaded it, printed it out on 110-pound cardstock, and did a video of building it. Now, this isn't a build video, but I got some really good tips that have helped me in building paper models. I think will be helpful to you. So it's a little bit of cheesiness coming up that I hope is entertaining, but I hope this will be helpful for you. The yellow hobby knife has a bad blade in it, so I use it for the fold lines. The other hobby knife has a regular blade, and I use it for cutting. But you don't need a straight edge if you are the straight edge, and I am the straight edge. So I'm going to do this freehand. Now here's straight edge in beast mode. A very important tip about building paper models is coloring the edges of the paper and the folds. The second tip is to do that while you're cutting them out. It's much easier to do one of these sides while it's still connected to the paper. So I'm not going to show all this tediousness. We'll move on to what's next, which is putting the models together. Also, that it's pretty simple. You're gluing paper together. So I use a toothpick since you're gluing a lot of small pieces. And mostly I'm just using regular school glue, PVA glue, wherever you want to call it, regular white glue. I'll use rubber cement or like a glue stick if I'm laminating pieces of paper together, just so they won't warp as much. But mostly it's just white glue and gluing paper together. So at this point I have the main building put together, the four walls. These are interior supports. That'll keep your paper model from being wavy. And there's two of those. So there's the main building, the foundation is put together, and the roof. Next we'll look at the windows on that lean-to. Windows are probably the most complicated parts of these models. For cutting out the windows, I'm going to show you a tip that helps me. Maybe you don't need to do this, but I was getting frustrated every time I would cut out a window and get a whole bunch of it done and then cut one of them little teeny pieces off. Overcut one just a little bit. So when I do the windows, I don't cut those lines all the way from one end to the other. I try to leave just a little bit of space, and then I flip over the paper to the back and finish the cuts. That helps me a lot, and other than that, I was getting frustrated doing windows and then cutting off one of those pieces when I was almost done. So that's the only part I wanted to show you about cutting them out. Maybe you can see well enough that you would never do that, but I can't. So this is how I have to do my windows. And any of the real small detailed cuts, I'll like finish them on the back side if I'm afraid I'm going to cut something a little bit too far. The instructions for these windows call for them to use some glass. So for the glass, I'm using that package from the LED lights I used in the gas station. I told you how you can use these for windows and buildings. Well, here's an example. So there's the first layer, layer number 1, and it has a piece of glass over the whole thing. Oh, and by the way, all of these glue to the back side except for layer number 4. Layers 1 through 3 glue to the back side, which is why the edges look the way they do. So let's use a Sharpie to mark the lines I need to cut out the glass, and the large one goes over layer number 1. So I'll put some glue around the edges. Just try to keep it from the edges so that it don't get into the middle where the glass will be seen through the front wall. And glue the piece of glass on it. That's layer number 1. Layer number 2 has a half piece of glass on it. So just put a little glue around the very edge so it don't, because you know it'll seep under that glass if you're not careful when you glue it on. Trim that glass just a little bit and then put it on. So there's layer number 1 and 2, and I'm going to glue number 2 to number 1. So again, just gluing around the edges put those on top of each other. So layer number 3 will just go on top of those ones. Put some glue around the edges of it to try to keep it from getting onto the glass. And then glue that in place. I got a little bit of glue on that corner, so I'm using a scrap piece of paper just to get that out real quick. So now this assembly right here glues to the back wall, or to the back of the wall. The only part that glues to the front of the wall is layer number 4. There's a couple little trim pieces that go on layer number 4, but layer number 4 goes onto the front of the wall. Now on these windows, on all the windows on the inside of the wall, the insides of those windows are colored, the edges are. On layer number 4, both the insides and outside edges are colored, just so you don't see any white part of paper in the window. I'm going to cut out these little trim pieces for the front of layer number 4. Different buildings have different types of windows. I like this kind for windows that you're not doing an interior. These come out pretty good, and they kind of give the illusion that there's something inside with that glass in there like that. Now if I was doing an interior and the insides of these walls would be seen, layers number 1 through 3, I probably would have only used layer number 3 and put glass on it, and then been more careful about what the inside looked like. Not left those edges out where you glue it to the back of the wall. A couple little trim pieces put on here, and it gives some little details to the front of the window. I noticed when I glued that on there, there's a little white edge there. I'm going to hit that with a little bit of charcoal. Just wipe off the excess, and you have yourself a window. So I got the main building glued together with the roof and everything. Got the windows on the lean-to walls. Got them all assembled. And here's what the finished product looked like. At the time this video is published, this is the current freebie on clevermodels.net. I'm not affiliated with Clever Models or anything, but their stuff is cool, and this is free. So I think with the paper, I have maybe $1.20 in this. 110-pound bond from Staples is what I use. And printing it out, I might have $3 in this. When I first started doing paper models, I looked for free ones, free downloads. And this is free. It's a good one to try if you're thinking about doing them. I think you'll like the results. Let's look at it on the layout.